serial murderer like no other, painstakingly planning and carrying out a series of heinous killings in the sleepy town of East Falls, Idaho. For months, he eluded capture, leaving a trail of victims and a terrified town in his wake. But as his scheme became more daring, so did the determination of those who stood in his way. The stakes rose with each passing day until the killer was apprehended in a heart-stopping showdown. This is the story of the terrible Idaho killings and the race against time to apprehend a crazed killer before he claimed any more victims. Their killer's evasiveness made their deaths more horrific until his abrupt arrest. On November 13th, 4 University of Idaho students, Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogen, and Kaylee Goncalves were brutally attacked in an off-campus townhome. They were premeditatedly stabbed and killed. The Idaho student killing shocked Moscow, Idaho, and captivated the world for 7 agonizing weeks. The lead-up to the triple homicide was unremarkable, but what transpired following was international news. No suspicious activities, changes, or worrying behaviors preceded the murders, and no immediate suspects, huge compelling clues, or critical witnesses followed. An unknown assailant entered the house, stabbed 4 of the 6 sleeping pupils, and left. However, on December 30th, Moscow police stated that an arrest had been made in the case. Bryan Kohberger, age 28, had no obvious ties to any of the victims. Instead, he was a PhD student at a nearby institution with a troubling past and a fascination with true crime. The sudden identification of the alleged perpetrator, as well as the investigation into his personal history, made one of the most pointless, terrible acts in recent memory even more tragic. Had a would-be serial killer killed 4 dedicated pals, 2 of whom were dating and 2 of whom were lost-in-standing best friends. The probable cause affidavit for Kohberger's arrest, which was revealed after his initial court appearance, gives new light on an exceptionally heinous act and the equally extraordinary criminal investigation that followed it. What ultimately led to Kohberger's arrest was simply great investigative work, a combination of well-organized policing, innovative forensics based on genetic genealogy, and old-fashioned detective work. The murders. Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogen, and Kaylee Goncalves were all University of Idaho students who were involved in the school's Greek system and became fast friends. Kernodle, a vivacious junior majoring in marketing, was dating Chapin, a triplet and fun-loving sports management major, both age 20. Mogen and Goncalves, both 21, had been best friends since they were in 6th grade. They did everything together. They lived together, went to school together, and eventually died together. Everything appeared to be normal on Saturday, November 12, 2022. Kernodle and Chapin attended a Sigma Chi fraternity party, while Mogen and Goncalves went to a bar and later hung out at a food truck. By 2 a.m. Sunday, everyone had assembled at the King Road home, where Mogen, Goncalves, and Kernodle shared a room with 2 other housemates. Goncalves had recently moved out of the townhouse as she prepared to graduate early and seek a job in Austin, Texas. But she returned for the weekend to hang out with Mogen, as reported in January. The 3-story residence was largely accessed by a guardian door, with a controlled entry on the bottom floor, as well as a sliding glass door on the main level. Although the bottom entry was locked, the sliding glass door may have been more easily accessible. Kernodle bought Jack in the Box at 4 a.m. At 4:12 a.m., she was on her phone scrolling through TikTok. The attack began within the next several minutes. She tried to fight off her attacker, but she and her partner would both be dead by 4:25 a.m. The killer entered each of the victims' rooms for individual attacks on the 2nd and 3rd floors of the house, but he left the housemates on the main and lowest floors alive. He wielded a big Kohberger knife similar to those used by the U.S. Marine Corps. Surveillance footage from a nearby building captured audio of the attacks at about 4:17 a.m., including frightened sounds and barking from Goncalves' dog. According to the complaint, one roommate reported hearing noises and weeping, but didn't comprehend what she was hearing. Although she opened her door several times to see what was going on, she saw nothing unusual, though she did hear Goncalves say, "There's someone here." She afterward heard a male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm gonna help you," above the sounds of wailing coming from Kernodle's chamber. The 3rd time she opened the door, she saw a man dressed in all black and wearing a mask approaching her. The killer passed by her room while she was in frozen shock, and it's unknown whether or not he spotted her. The only thing she could clearly see with his face mostly covered was the suspect's bushy eyebrows. Still stunned, the roommate returned to her room and shut the door, as the killer exited through the apartment's main floor sliding glass door. He then went. Bryan Kohberger's investigation and arrest. As the affidavit shows, authorities rapidly identified Kohberger as a person of interest and smoothly collaborated across states, jurisdictions, and the country to detain him. Surveillance footage of a white sedan circling the neighborhood between 3:20 a.m. and 4:20 a.m. provided the first major clue. The automobile was found 10 miles away in Pullman, Washington, home of Washington State University. A 2014 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra was identified by an FBI expert. With that information, WSU campus police found Kohberger, a Hyundai Elantra owner who attended the school and resided near the last place the car was seen on camera, the night of November 13th. The Moscow Police Department acquired Kohberger's driver's license photo with his bushy eyebrows on November 29th, 2 weeks after the murders. The night of the murders, Kohberger's phone traveled from Pullman to Moscow before being cut off between 2:47 a.m. and 4:48 a.m., consistent with Kohberger attempting to disguise his position during the quadruple homicide, according to the affidavit. They also showed Kohberger returning to the crime scene in Moscow at about 9 a.m. that day, several hours before authorities were alerted, and then returning to his Pullman home. The smoking gun in this case was an empty knife sheath with an unknown male's DNA found at the crime site on the first day of the inquiry. Genetic DNA matching, which has led to several arrests since the Golden State Killer's 2018 arrest, was used with this tip. Investigators upload DNA to genealogy websites and establish a suspect's family tree. Using context clues and other investigative work, they follow the family tree to find the most likely match. Genetic genealogy is contentious. Only GED match and family tree DNA allow law enforcement to use user DNA. GED match urges users to opt in and claim their genetic DNA matching has solved over 500 cold cases. Given how often genetic DNA matching is used to solve murders, that number seems accurate, and it may soon be higher thanks to a recently developed prediction algorithm that could help investigators swiftly zoom in on the correct branch of a DNA family tree. Police matched Kohberger's father's DNA on the knife sheath with trash from his parents' home. That match eliminated 99.99% of the population as the suspect's father. Kohberger and his father drove from Washington to Pennsylvania for several days. Colorado, Indiana, and Pennsylvania license plate readers tracked their travels. Indiana Patrol Police stopped them twice for tailgating on December 15th in a short time. A law enforcement source later told Fox News that a task team monitoring Kohberger requested that Indiana troopers pull him over to check his hands for cuts or other injuries. Kohberger and his father appear briefly in body cam footage of one of the two stops. The FBI, reportedly part of the task force, denied to Fox that it had ordered Kohberger's waylaying. It's unclear if the task force was working independently, or if the two stops were a coincidence. After many days of surveillance, the Pennsylvania State Police raided Kohberger's parents' home in rural Chestnut Hill Township on December 30th, breaking windows and doors. On January 5th, Kohberger appeared in the Latah County District Court in Moscow after being extradited back to Ohio under media scrutiny. The court unsealed his arrest paperwork. Bryan Kohberger debuted then. Internet sleuths swiftly uncovered his unusual and scary past. Idaho killings devastated a little village. However, law enforcement and the community persevered to bring the killer to justice. This story reminds us that there are still people who want to hurt our community. Staying attentive and supporting each other helps prevent tragedies like these. Please contact local authorities or a support group if you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence or abuse. You're never alone, and there's always hope. We can make the world safer and fair.